We do want to talk about what the former president is doing, both on the legal side, but also the political side. And for both of those, we want to bring in CNN reporter Daniel Dale to fact-check some of the claims made by the former president last night when addressing the crowd at Bedminster. Daniel, Trump claimed that the Espionage Act shouldn't be applied in this case. Take a listen.
Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping his own documents.
All right, Daniel, there's the former president's contention. What are the facts?
So two big problems of fact here, Phil. First of all, these are not his own documents. They are the legal property of the federal government. Second of all, though, this idea that the Espionage Act is only meant for traitors and spies is just not true. Of course, there are provisions of the Espionage Act that target traitors and spies, but there's also the provision under which Trump and many people before him have been charged. It's known as 793E, and it makes it a crime to willfully retain national defense information and refuse to deliver it to the United States. Nothing in that provision requires you to be a spy, to do any classic espionage, to even deliver the information to anyone. And as an example, you can go back and look at another indictment, the 2017 indictment of a former NSA contractor named Harold Martin. He was accused of taking a whole bunch of classified information and just keeping it in his car and his house. He was never accused in court of giving it to anyone, of being a spy. He was essentially portrayed as a kind of hoarder. He ended up pleaded guilty. So not a spy. This provision was applied and he was convicted and sentenced.
One other thing, Daniel, that's so interesting is that the former president made the point that instead of the Espionage Act, the law that should be applied here is the Presidential Records Act, which actually isn't part of the indictment. Listen to this.
Threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put forward in an American court of law. As president, the law that applies to this case is not the Espionage Act, but very simply the Presidential Records Act, which is not even mentioned in this ridiculous 44-page indictment. Under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal, I had every right to have these documents.
Putting aside the fact that that's not even in the indictment, if it were, does the PRA absolve him of any of this?
It doesn't. The idea that the Presidential Records Act absolves former President Trump here is like upside down, bizarro world stuff. That law, Poppy, is unequivocal. It says that all official records from a presidency are the property of the federal government, the National Archives, the moment that president leaves office. As one expert put it to me, the fact that former President Trump violated the Presidential Records Act does not prevent him from being charged for also allegedly violating another law. And I'll add there's two other problems of fact in that quote we just played. Number one, he's not actually being threatened with 400 years in prison. Federal sentencing does not work by adding up the maximum possible sentence for each crime, so that's not realistic. And second of all, it's just not true that just about every other president has done what he's done. No other president in the Presidential Records Act era, so starting with President Ronald Reagan, has done anything like take a trove of sensitive classified documents and refuse to give them back to the federal government when asked repeatedly to do so.
Right. They're in the willful retention allegation. Daniel Dale, thank you. Your fact checks are gold. We appreciate them.